Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Jay Laskar. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me, Carter. Pleasure. For me, as a social butterfly, like I kind of consider myself. I don't know if you've seen the movie Paddington. Basically, the bear is like he just goes up to random people, says good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I think that's just me being a social butterfly. Like young, elder, just say hi to everybody because I just like to talk.
Talked about the busy summer you had. Something I did want to start on
Of course.
was your family business.
It's both a cafe and an accounting and tax firm. We decided that, okay, let's invent some sort of like new ideas, new aspects, the regular like muffins, barikas, apple strudels, but at the same time, put in an element of our South Asian heritage and culture into it.
The second years hate the first years for no reason. There is some beef every single year where the second years just dislike the incoming class.
I'm a person of God, so I'm a Muslim myself. Believe me, Carter, there have been times when I felt lost, confused in my life, even during university, when I was asking myself, like, what the heck am I even going to do? I've been attending like daily prayers. Every time I'm going through a bad phase in my life, or, just to get rid of all the bricks on my shoulder, I just turn to God and I ask, look, God, I'm going through X, Y, and Z amount of stuff. Can you help me? And as soon as I pray, as soon as I submit, I just feel at peace and tranquility, and I have a perfect answer as to what to do. Had I not put my faith and trust in God, I had no bloody idea where the heck I'm going to be now.
Wow.
Heck, I don't even know if I'd be talking to you at this point.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of Vic. Today, I am here with a third-year environmental science major, double minoring in stats and econ, which is interesting because I'm majoring in econ, minoring in stats.
Wow.
Not minoring
Impressive.
in environmental science, but minoring in psychology. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Jay Laskar. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me, Carter. Pleasure.
It is going to be a fun discussion. I got a list of topics set out here, but before we dive into all of that, I'd like to make a note. If anyone's listening to the podcast and not watching, this is a wild contrast of beautifully dressed Jay Laskar sitting here with me in my hoodie, jeans, and a t-shirt. So if you're not watching, only listening, this guy's got a nice navy suit on with a nice white shirt. Like the watch too.
Cheers, brother.
So we got a good impression off the bat.
Cheers, brother.
Absolutely. How was your summer?
It was good.
Yeah.
Quite busy, quite hectic, to say the least. Obviously, focusing on my fitness more so often, getting to the gym more often. I did take a summer semester at U of T, so I took Chem 2, which was pretty intense because, a lot of late nights, a lot of study sessions, a lot of hard work, et cetera, whilst at the same time, obviously, looking after my father's small business. So balancing those two at the end of the day, all that grind and busyness paid off, and I would say it was pretty productive.
What's your relationship with sleep?
Interesting question. So, my family does not like me the fact that I sleep late, 1 or 2 a.m., although this is typical of a U of T student, as you and I know very well.
Yeah.
So nowadays, I've been trying to change my sleep schedule to make it at least like 12 o'clock max or midnight, or I'll try my best, obviously, for 10, 11. Because what I've decided to do, strategy-wise, is essentially just treat the university like my workplace. That is, get and optimize my work, get my work done as much as I can over there, optimize my time, essentially, and then minimize the amount of work that I have to do when I get back home. And that strategy has been proving pretty effective. So, it's getting there to the point where I can find full 100% balance. But that's how it is with my sleep nowadays.
That's sweet. And you're in Scarborough. Are you studying at Scarborough? Or you study
So
here at St. George?
I am studying at UTSC at the moment, but I do take courses at St. George too.
Okay,
Yes.
Awesome. How have you found the difference between the two?
So I can say for St. George in the context of summer, because mainly fall, winter I take at Scarbs. In the case of Scarbs for fall and winter, for instance, so obviously, as you probably know, Scarborough is a pretty small campus, 30K students roughly, around that ballpark. I could be wrong. I apologize in advance. So we basically know everyone. Everyone knows each other, and we have this small, tight-knit community where you can just basically see your students almost every day, talk to them, chat with them, no problem. In the summer, now obviously I can't say for fall and winter in St. George, at least from what I heard. I know it's big, so sometimes it can be just a tad bit difficult, at least from what I heard in St. George. I'm not qualified enough to say that.
Yeah.
However, in the summer, obviously you have a whole bunch of students, that are not in the university because they go back home, do their stuff, this and that. So it's almost, I would say, summer, same size as Scarborough in fall and winter. So I would say basically, same study pattern as Scarborough, not much difference. But again, close-knit community, you get to know your friends all the more faster, and it's a very pleasurable experience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome because the way that U of T St. George has to break it down is obviously, as you know, the college system where you have Victoria College, Innis, I should know the rest, Trinity, there's a four more, but that kind of creates that small tight knit community. But like when it comes to lectures and stuff, you're basically like on your own. You're basically, unless you have a friend that you know who's in the same program type of thing.
Yeah.
It's not like you typically go to a class, at least for economics. I can't, maybe other programs are different, but definitely Victoria College isn't much of an economics college. Like it's very arts and focused more on that side of things. So I think it's been good for community in that way, but I could understand absolutely even just making the comparison between city and town. You know what I mean? Because I live in a town in the summer, obviously, because that's where I grew up. And when I'm in Toronto, it's a lot busier. It's a lot more hectic.
I know.
Yeah.
And I can attest to what you're saying because, like, I'm basically Toronto born and bred, born and raised my whole life. So, yeah, I can attest to the fact that, it is really busy. And traffic downtown, let's not get started on that in the summers. More than wild. Because, again, summer, that's when it gets lively. That's when the economy gets more so booming. I know, obviously, winter's when it gets booming, too, but summer's obviously when it gets busy. Everyone wants to go to all these attractions in Toronto because it's the break, right? Everyone's out of school, out of work. So, the hustle and bustle, I think, intensifies a little bit more in the summer. But, that's my viewpoint on it.
Absolutely. It's tough because in Orangeville is where I grew up. This is where I live. Not to dox myself or anything.
No, please. I love those places anyways, like up north, out east. Like I'm more of a, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I'm more of a, like a countryside. Although it's kind of contrary to me being from the city, born and bred. I often would visit Kingston like every year, and out east, Belleville, beautiful places. Because me and my family, we're big fans of like farms, open areas, and the water especially. I live pretty much like 5 minutes away from the water too.
Nice.
Like a walking distance. So anytime I need to cleanse my mind, I would always go there. But to come back to the main point, big fans of that area too.
That's beautiful. What I've noticed is that for work, I think the city does give you a better environment because it's just so fast and everything is everywhere. So it's like you can't go outside and not be kind of like engulfed in that like go kind of mentality and energy. But the people, I'd say, in the small towns are better. Not necessarily because Orangeville just raises better people, but I think the environment makes it so that people can be better. Like every time I come here, every time I move from Orangeville to Toronto, there's always like a short transition period where I realize like I can't say hi to someone on the sidewalk because that's weird. You know what I mean? In Orangeville, you only pass by someone so often. So when you do, it's like, oh, shit, someone else is walking on the sidewalk today. Good morning. Yeah. Whereas in Toronto, it's like there's 100 people. If you're going to have to wave to everyone, you're going to be like seen as some weird guy. So it's tough. Yeah.
No, for me as a social butterfly, like I kind of consider myself, I don't know if you've seen the movie Paddington.
I know it.
Yeah. So basically, the bear is like he just goes up to random people, says good morning, good afternoon, good evening, with his hat, stuff like that. And I think that's just me being a social butterfly. Like young, elder, just say hi to everybody because I just like to talk.
That's awesome.
That's just me being an extroverted person.
That's huge. So you talked about the busy summer you had. Something I did want to start on was your family business. What is that? How was the experience working there? I'm not even too sure. You said it was a cafe. Is that right?
It's both a cafe and an accounting and tax firm. So essentially,
interesting mix.
I know it is a very interesting mix, but thanks to God, it's been a pretty successful mix.
Nice.
So what I basically do is I focus more on the accounting and tax side sort of things with my father. So obviously, I would be dealing with a lot of student tax files and. For anyone interested, for any U of T students interested, 50% off for up the regular price for any students that are studying in U of T or any students either in Toronto or in the GTA. Sorry for the promo.
Go for it, man.
Just so basically, I would work on like a bunch of clients' tax files from corporate to US. And a whole bunch of other things. And essentially around February, March, April, that's when it gets the most hectic and the most busiest because, the deadline for filing the taxes is coming up really soon once you reach that period of time. And I remember it's a funny memory you're talking about this because recently, bloody hell, back in like February, March, so obviously just 1 month before exams were starting, having to balance out school and things, I've been having to work on like 5, 6, files on a daily basis, along with help from my father. And there were like long nights. It was like literally dark at night when I came home, like almost 8, 9 o'clock. o'clock, and then the next day you had to go to school. So balancing that at first, it's a little challenging.
Yeah.
But with the grace of God, eventually everything works out well. My father is now, so we have currently one location. We were in multiple locations for like around 20, 25 years. My father started it out as his home, and then eventually, grew to expand it because he was, he's a qualified CGA, which is now, you consider that as a CPA, I believe, and a pretty intelligent man, by the way. So I got to give him some credit because that's where I got some of the brains from.
Awesome.
So from then on in, we were just, so overall, our business has been there for like around 15, 20 years-ish. We have just recently celebrated our 10th year anniversary at the one location we've been in.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And some challenges that I'd like to, actually, no, before I get into the challenges, due to like, the hard work that all of us, me, my father, and my mother included, have put into the business, we've actually been ranked by a lot of good, third-party companies like Canadian Accountant Search, top 5 back-to-back years.
Wow.
And then most recently, Who's Who, which is Marquis Who's Who, which is also run by the New York Times, but they also have their departments here in Canada. So essentially, we are also listed in the Who's Who. We also got the Who's Who certificate, which is a pretty damn big certificate to get, especially when it comes from the New York Times, obviously.
Yep.
So pretty massive achievement, and it's just really only upward from here. Now coming to the challenges sort of aspect. Obviously, when COVID reached, as my father runs a small business, it was hard for every other small business out there. Obviously, as you know, most small businesses had to shut down.
Yep.
And our cafe was literally running on eggshells. And what I mean by running on eggshells was we literally had to survive off the fact that our tax and accounting business was doing well at the time because everyone, back then they were all at home, during COVID, and some of them didn't have their taxes filed for previous years. So we were doing pretty well in that tax and accounting aspect. But the cafe, as sure as many small businesses, obviously because of lockdowns and because of a bunch of uncertainties and unpredictabilities, we didn't know if we were going to survive for that long. But, using some help from the accounting business side of things, as that was booming, we were able to maintain basically able to run the business as it is today.
Nice.
Otherwise, without this accounting and tax business, I don't know if the survivability of the cafe would still be where it is today.
Yeah. How do you fish for the customers who want their taxes done and a muffin? How do you find that? How does that idea even start? Was it your mother that said, I want to do a cafe? Your father said, I want to do an accounting firm, so they couldn't compromise?
In terms of the cafe side of things, it would be more so my father, because when my father first came here, he worked at a bunch of restaurants. Like, for instance, he worked as a chef cutting onions at Red Lobster, right? And so when he used to come back home, mind you, he used to come back home very, very late at night. When I was a little boy, like 3-4 years old, I never used to see him often because he worked most of the day shifts and came home like 1-2 a.m. I was asleep by then, obviously, with my mother. So he gained a lot, and working at those restaurants, not only Red Lobster, but a couple others in the community that I was living in at the time, he gained some experience. And he's like, okay, so I have some expertise. Why don't I also start a cafe too? Because there was also a cafe that was running before we came into play at the time, but it wasn't doing so well. So we decided that, okay, let's invent some sort of like new ideas, new aspects, the regular like muffins, barikas, apple strudels, but at the same time, put in an element of our South Asian heritage and culture into it. So mixing that together, obviously bringing a new diverse item into the community. And ever since doing that, it has pretty much become popularized, and we've had like a bunch of customers, mainly elderly, that have been, coming in for the breakfast and lunch for almost every day, really. And shout out to you guys. You're our most loyal ones. We'll never forget you. And due to that, it has essentially, just popularized it more and more.
That's fantastic. Okay, so what is it called again?
St. Lawrence. So the cafe side, it's called St. Lawrence Cafe.
Okay.
And the tax and accounting side is called St. Lawrence Tax and Accounting. Overall, the company, it's called St. Lawrence Professionals. But those are the two companies.
Got it. Okay. So, and when did it open? When did this start?
So this cafe, 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah,
okay.
Hence why we're celebrating the 10th anniversary now.
Right. Sorry, you said that.
No, it's okay. I understand.
And you were 20? You're 20 now, sorry?
I'm 20 now, yes.
Okay, so you were 10 when it started.
Yes.
And when did you start working with it?
Like in terms of the cafe side?
Yeah.
So around like maybe like 12, 13.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But again, like I said, I was mainly focused towards like the operational and tax and accounting
Yeah.
sort of things.
Yeah.
And then often, from time to time, I would just go to the kitchen, just make sure everything's all right, and then contribute with a helping hand if need be, from time to time, like coffees
Yeah.
and other stuff for the customers.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So at 12 and 13, when you're in this environment, hustling, bustling with your parents,
Yeah.
does that kind of shape maybe your outlook on careers going into the future? Because I know that you're very interested in politics, which is
Yeah.
a little bit different, at least from what I can see, than this accounting and cafe business that you have. So working in that business, does it like interest you more in business, or are you just like, no, it's something I do with my family, but my personal path is something else?
Carter, I'm just a guy with like a diverse taste of interests.
Yeah.
When it comes to Canadian politics, I have to give this one shout out to this teacher named Jean-Guy, because when I was a little kid, I always used to watch Peter Mansbridge at the National, along with CPAC, the Ontario Legislature, on the telly all the time. And that, intrigued me into an interest, like, this could be a potential interesting field that I could explore myself into. So I got into contact with this teacher from the community, and he gave me a bunch of good, suggestions and extracurriculars for me to get myself involved into. And I'm like, okay, I've, watched all these politicians, these bureaucrats, these diplomats on television. They've obviously they're all different paths, but the common start is that they had to get their footing somewhere, one way or another. So I decided that, okay, maybe, I can start myself. At that time, I think when I applied, that was for the PAGE program in the Ontario Legislature. That was, I believe, 2018. So I was grade 8 at the time.
Yeah.
So around that age, what was it, like 13, 14, I believe? I would think so. So I started to, get myself into it. And believe me, I made the best of friends over there, best of connections. And honestly, I found that Queen's Park was my second home, because I used to go there essentially every day from basically like long shifts. So like 7 in the morning, I would have to wake up like 5 in the morning, get there by 7, because you have morning proceedings, then afternoon, and evening. And then sometimes I'd return home by like 8 o'clock in the evening. So
Damn.
Long shifts, but that long shifts engaged me to grow even more respect of the political procedures in this country, and how the legislature works overall. And ever since then, the rest has been history. I was involved in Ontario Model Parliament a couple of years later in 2020. So just before COVID happened, the 26th to the 28th, in person, which is similar to like Model UN, but in this case, you're basically you're going to simulate throughout like the different parties. So in that aspect, I was part of the NDP. At the time, the so-called NDP at the time, that is. And what I essentially was vouching for, my constituents, my party, one of the main things that I've worked on was essentially amending a bill for the Green Party in terms of advertising. They had a bill at the time, obviously it's a fake bill, because for the purpose of the program, on banning plastics and stuff like that. So I basically put an advertisement suggestion to them, an amendment I'd like to call it, where I'm like, okay, you have all these sort of advertisements, why don't you make something for like Spotify and for radio? Because obviously we have elderly people, and we have people that listen to streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, et cetera, et cetera. So why not do that? And that was a pretty viral moment because when I mentioned Spotify Premium, because I'm like, look, not many people have Spotify Premium if they have Spotify. I remember that everyone was chuckling, and that was, I think, one of the most memorable moments. And it worked. They decided that joke, when it wasn't a joke, it was like an amendment that I turned into a joke so that the amendment could happen. It worked. They actually did amend the bill. And from then on in, I just decided to explore myself more in that avenue, so to speak. But to answer your question on getting to if I'm interested more on the business side or the politics side, again, obviously I'm 20, so it's still a little bit early on, but I'm just a guy that's interested to explore everything, because there's no harm in doing that at the end of the day.
Absolutely, I do hear you. Do you keep up with? So you do the work in politics. You're interested in like the procedures as you were talking about, but do you keep up with like the news of what's going on in Canadian politics today? Like there was some big news of the NDP now pulling back their support for
Crazy,
Trudeau.
eh?
What do you think about that?
Wow. I'm gonna provide a neutral stance as much as I can. But all I'm gonna say is that obviously a lot of Canadians have been frustrated nowadays with how things have been going on. I could see it from face to face and with people that I've been talking to. So the frustration is understandable. I think at a certain point in time, Canadians realized that change was inevitable to happen. So, with Jagmeet pulling the plug on their, basically the ties between them and the Liberal Party, this obviously is going to basically lead to an election. Now, with that election, I think there is, based on the polls, that there is going to be a good chance that Pierre Poilievre is probably going to be the next prime minister of that. And honestly, I don't want to talk bad about any leaders. I know everyone has their good, everyone has their bad. Honestly, we're just looking forward to like the leaders like truly listening to the voices of the youth and actually making a change for Canada for good this time. Because to be honest, Canada needs to get back on track as soon as possible, or things are just going to go downhill from here.
I hear you. What do you think that change is? When you say we need people listening to the youth, like what kind of thing that isn't working right now in Canada you think can be fixed in the next
economic term? And inflation, mainly. Obviously, as a student, and I'm sure I've heard from many students, we're all been suffering from the prices of, paying for rent, paying for food, paying for certain necessities. And because of that, that's putting a big, big financial burden on all of our pockets to the point where, stress levels have gone high. And in turn, that's been impacting everyone's mental health because money is a big factor nowadays.
Right.
So we need a really, really massive control on that. I mean, obviously, I understand COVID had an effect and we're currently in a recession right now, but we need things to be in control as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I do hear you. So you mentioned mental health because absolutely. Money. I've heard different numbers for like, what's the minimum amount, like what's the smallest salary you can have to be, I guess your mental health isn't affected by the money, because they say like, oh, you don't need to make $10 million a year to be happy. But like you also can't be making 20,000 a year, like with the economy in the state it's in now, like that is adding a bunch of stress.
Yeah.
So I've heard different numbers. Like I've heard anything from between like 60,000 to 400,000 of like, what's the minimum amount for you to be like not needing to worry about expenses and that kind of thing. But money aside, because that's like a whole podcast, we could talk about that in terms of like the importance. But
absolutely,
what do you do in terms of your, I guess, how do you manage stress at U of T as a student with the busyness that you have, the schedule, all of this kind of thing? You mentioned the gym, which is, I would say, a big aspect of that for me. I'm just getting out there, moving your body. I think a lot of people could benefit from that. So, because there is a lot of talk about mental health, and I don't know if the cures that people are providing, whether it's like the most, I guess, dangerous in my opinion are things like medication. Whereas like maybe you don't need that. Maybe you just need to go take a walk instead of like, putting pills into your body.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, what do you think about that side of things?
For me, I'm a person of God, so I'm a Muslim myself. And basically the simple answer I can give you is faith in God, because believe me, Carter, there have been times when I felt lost, confused in my life, even during university, when I was asking myself, like, what the heck am I even going to do in the future? And honestly, I've been attending like daily prayers, because the holy day in Islam is Friday. So attending, we have 5 times a day prayers throughout the whole day, and then also the holy day Friday prayers too. And every time I'm going through a bad phase in my life, or, just to get rid of, all the bricks on my shoulder, I just turn to God and I ask, look, God, I'm going through X, Y, and Z amount of stuff. Can you help me? And as soon as I pray, as soon as I submit, I just feel at peace and tranquility. Everything's off, and I have a perfect answer as to what to do. And with me, like, had I not like put my faith and trust in God, I had no bloody idea where the heck I'm going to be now.
Wow.
Heck, I don't even know if I'd be talking to you at this point, to be honest.
Absolutely.
So I'm very grateful.
That's awesome. I want to ask questions about that actually too, because prayer is something. Sorry, I'm just going to make sure that this machine's still good. Beautiful. Okay. Yeah, because prayer is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and a lot of religious people are like, yeah, pray. And like for me, it's difficult with prayer because I feel, at least my conception, you can absolutely correct me because I don't know.
Absolutely.
My conception of prayer is people asking things of God, whereas when I pray, like I don't feel I should necessarily ask. I feel I should maybe express gratitude for the things I already have. Whereas, when people pray, like I hear a lot of the time, people pray for favors, basically asking God of favors, but I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing.
I agree. It's not even close.
So what is prayer? If you could like that's a big question, obviously,
Yeah.
but like for me, I'm trying to figure it out. I think religion's great.
Yeah.
And I just want to know.
You mentioned right now just seeking gratitude and seeking forgiveness for whatever past that you've done. And honestly, the rest, God will lead the way. If you ask too much favors, God's going to be like, okay, are you praying to me at this point just to ask for favors? It defeats the purpose of praying at the end of the day. So whenever you do submit to God, always just, ask for gratitude, seek for forgiveness, express that I've done everything, and He will lead the path. You don't have to worry about a single thing, because so long as you have a faith in Him, the rest will fly like the Concorde.
Got it.
Prime Concorde, not before Air France screwed everything up. You know what I mean?
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean?
So long story short, essentially when so the Concorde was one of the most popular planes back in the 90s.
Okay.
And Air France is quite known for having a ton of crashes. That's crazy. So I believe back in 2004, there was a very, very tragic accident that happened with the Concorde, I believe in France.
Yeah.
And after that crash, the Concorde decided, nope, we're not going to go ahead with this, continuing this plane anymore. But back then, it was like you could think of it as the prime Lexus LFA.
Yeah, okay.
Like it was supersonic. You can literally get to, how in Toronto to London, you can get there for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
If you do Toronto to London with the Concorde, you're getting there in 4,
Damn.
if not 3.
Interesting.
It was one of the fastest in its time.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. That's interesting. Another interesting thing. So you just mentioned that. I've never heard of that. Another thing that you mentioned on this form that I was reading was relating to religion a little bit, but in building friendships, you said you didn't want to necessarily be in a Brutus Caesar situation. Yes. I had never heard about that. Maybe I'm just a dumbass. But I did the research and I'm like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. This is a good point to bring up, because I think about that a lot. Like I'm not one, like you say you're a social butterfly. I'm the opposite, but I still try to make sure I keep certain people at arm's length before I get to know kind of like who they really are. So, but with you being as extroverted as you are, would you identify as an extrovert?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So being as extroverted as you are, how do you make it so like you don't get too friendly too quick? Or is that not the answer? It's like you can still be friendly, but maybe don't invite them for dinner.
So honestly, what the thing is, I'm going to preface this by saying, so I'm an only child. I have no brothers, no sisters, right? So, me being the social butterfly, I tend to make friends with everyone easily. And again, in talking with everyone, I can relate to their experiences because I've somewhat gone through similar things. But as you go down the road of friendship, you may realize that some of your friends may have traits that you may not necessarily share, you may not like. And sometimes when you are too generous to people, because like I consider myself a very generous and open person, it can eventually bite you in the back, because they can be, some of them, I'm not saying all of them, but some of them can be essentially advantageous of that. And then when you need their help, like say if you're going through something, then they're going to leave you in the dirt and say piss off, right? So one thing that I've trying to do as we speak is essentially just be very careful and be picky. Think like multiple times, not just twice, like thrice, 4, 5, 6 times as to who I'm associating myself with. And the second tenet is if they're going to help me grow, if I can help them grow, then if they are going to help me grow.
True.
And if that 50-50 works, then that's a suitable friendship.
Absolutely. That's awesome. What are some of the key traits that you see in people that you try to avoid? Like when you're meeting someone and then they do this thing, you're like, ooh, I don't know if I want you in my circle.
So like reliance towards like, the distractive things, I like to say. I don't want to call them bad things, but distractive things like, drugs, no offense, but like alcohol a little bit like too much.
No offense taken. I don't drink.
Good. Those sort of things, if they're too reliant on that. I mean, again, relating to mental health, everyone goes through their own things. You just have to understand their story from back and forth. But if they're encouraging all that sort of like those bad elements, that I try to stay away from them as much as I can, distance myself. Not like be to the point where I say, hey, you do this, piss off, I don't want to talk to you anymore. That's not the greatest approach to do that with friends. Obviously
Are you speaking from personal experience? Have you done that before and it didn't turn out
tell
well?
them piss off? Hell no.
Okay.
Hell no. No, absolutely not. I've always maintained that level of respect with them, and saying that if you need any help, feel free to come by to me and I'll be your greatest support. But
I was thinking you did that once and they cried and you're like, oh, maybe don't do that again.
No. I've been pretty respectful of them.
That's good.
Most of the time.
That's good. Okay, so yeah, there's that. There's the reliance on that. Is there anything else?
That's
the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good point. Yeah. there's that. There's certain behaviors. Another thing that I've noticed is like I think certain people, when you take like some people take kindness as a weakness.
Yeah.
So like they see someone who's being like super nice and they try to take advantage of them, like you mentioned earlier. But another thing is that some kind people are kind because they're weak. So nothing to do with taking kindness as a weakness, but they are weak, so they have to be overly nice. And that's happened before, where people, like someone will be nice to me, and they'll say something to me, and then a different person who maybe doesn't like me, that person I just talked to will be nice to them because they don't want to upset anybody. And by not upsetting anybody, they upset both people because they said to me, oh yeah, man, I agree with you. And then they go to this person, and oh yeah, Carter, he's actually an asshole. I'm just like, all right, even though you were nice to my face, get out of here. This is double-sided, and you're a snake. So that's another thing for me, is like that loyalty is really important.
And it's hard to really find that nowadays, loyalty, right? Because, a lot of, sorry to sound a little bit condescending, but a lot of selfishness exists nowadays.
True.
And it's very hard to find people, like I said, that's going to help you if you help them, right? But in any case, one large thing in our religion tells us is that irregardless of differences, or irregardless whatever the person is, forgive them, move on, but still maintain that respect for them either way.
True. Absolutely.
And so I've kept that with me at all times.
Absolutely. It's an interesting thing. Forgiveness is something that I like mangle with in my head a lot about how does one forgive? And it's interesting because like when you think of, let's say, criminal justice systems, let's say, as a human being, it's a good thing to kind of see someone who made a mistake. Maybe they committed a crime and it was just something they did, and maybe they can be, kind of brought back into society at a certain pace. But it's gotten to a point, at least in Canada, where you see like people are so loose with the laws to a point where, because we're being overly forgiving, we're letting people who we catch like time and time again, maybe not necessarily as much in Ontario, but I know BC had this problem a lot, and other Western cultures as well. Like I hear in England, there's similar problems, but when you're not too tough on them, and when you're trying to be, once again, overly nice, you end up harming the people of your country by extension. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So it's a tough balance between like, let's try to give our people a second chance, but also like we have to protect the innocence as well. Like even though you did a crime, like we can't risk you going out and stabbing someone else.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. Strictness and tightness is required in order to maintain a proper balanced society and a safe society at the end of the day. Like let's say if you've been too nice to someone, but they keep on doing the wrong things over and over again, sometimes, you reached a certain point where you realize yourself, okay, maybe it's time to let go and let them do their own thing, for the best of not only yourself, but for the best of humanity,
Absolutely. 100%. We'll take a quick 5-minute break.
Yeah.
Back from a short break. Welcome back, Jay.
Hello, Carter. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. How do you pronounce your full name again?
So my first name is Zaverier, but there's a little bit of a caveat. The J is pronounced like a Z, but you spell it Javeriar.
Zaverier.
Yeah.
With a Z.
One of my persons told me if for people to understand it, like think of barrier, but Zavy, so Jave. So Zaverier.
Zaverier.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
and the last name Laskar. So
yeah. Perfect. Okay.
Like NASCAR.
Laskar like NASCAR. That's actually good. That's good. So we were talking about politics, and something that I also wanted to mention, the fact that you're mingling with all these people must give you some unique insights on networking, which a lot of U of T students care about. They try to, improve on, because everyone knows, like, besides the academics, networking is like a big thing that
100%.
Students are expected to do.
100%.
And, meet with people, connect with people. So what are some things about networking? I'm sure you might say you have an edge because you're an extrovert, but beyond that, like, what are some skills that you've learned?
Just basically differentiating as to who is going to help you versus who's not going to help you. Because at the end of the day, if you want to reach the highest levels of the echelon, you need to find people that are like actually genuinely going to help you, instead of just, being there for a coffee chat. I'll give you advice, and then next thing you know, good luck, you're on your own, right? So you need to find those people that is not only going to say good luck, but also is going to genuinely, help you, curve you towards the path that you also desire. Because if not, then obviously it's going to be a difficult time for you to get up. You have to do it like all by yourself. It's just really finding the people that are genuinely going to help you.
Yeah. Awesome. Interesting. How do you find those people?
numerous coffee chats, numerous Zoom chats, talking to them more often. LinkedIn a little bit, but I pride myself more in the face-to-face interactions because a lot of employers are going to tell you they don't use LinkedIn as much, so it's kind of dead. They just use it to basically summarize their achievements and stuff like that. So the chat is very minimally used. So just cold emails them. That's how I was able to get into almost some research positions just through like regular cold emailing. And yeah, just coffee chats and genuinely trying to understand if their motive is there to help you or if it's just, okay, I'm just here for advice and here, or let alone just here to grab a cup of coffee for my own, enjoyment. You know what I'm saying?
Right. 100%. That's interesting. And that would be networking with like, I guess, people above where you're at. So people who you want to maybe, who have experience that you might not have.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking also in terms of networking with like students your own age. Like when you do you have any experience networking with like other U of T kids, for example? Like because it's less about going on a Zoom call and it's more informal. You know what I mean?
Of course, no, I get what you mean. So in the context of student to student, really just become friends with them. Don't treat them like this is an employer-employee BS, because if you do, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to go your way.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very unsuccessful, dull, and boring. Both parties are not going to become interested, right? So you want to become friends with them. You want to slowly develop that relationship on the basis of friendship, of course. And then when the time is right and you feel comfortable with them, bang, that's when you click, and that's when you're able to help your best mates, help your friend, in that case, if you want to network with. And then the rest is history when you can go together,
Yeah, 100%. That's cool. A big one for networking opportunities, at least an easy one for me in first year, was sports. Was just playing on the intramural teams. So like, do you do any of that?
So because of time commitments, I wasn't able to do much sports now. However, in the past, I did get involved in like badminton, tennis, basketball, soccer, those sorts of things. Still a big fan of all those sports equivalently. Like you said, I can't really talk much about sports clubs in this thing, but again, when you get into sports, I'm sure you meet a bunch of people across a whole bunch of different avenues. You just got to find the right one that clicks with your avenue. Again, like I've alluded to earlier, become friends with them. Don't treat this like an employee-employer type stuff. And then once you feel like you've attained a certain point of comfort, that's when you click in and go ahead.
Yeah.
But you still maintain that friendship, of course. Don't be advantageous. That is never a good way to go about it.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have any like personal examples? Anyone, like, I'm not asking you to necessarily name drop, but like when you got to UTSC in first year,
yeah,
how was it? Were you nervous? Are you a nervous guy in general with that type of stuff?
So obviously going into a new environment when from high school all the way to UTSC, when it's, you're dealing with 15, 20,000, which is still big compared to the high school that I went to, which is almost like 500 kids ish.
Yeah.
It is going to be a little bit of a big adjustment. It takes time and time again to do that. But honestly, what I ended up doing was, in the context of networking, just, making friends, going to clubs, like school clubs, that is, not like party clubs, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So like school clubs, going to some of their events, and trying to, see which avenues I can further myself and develop my career. Like, for instance, I can give a very, very good example. Shout out to you, Khalil and Marlon, by the way, the Political Science Student Association at UTSC. I was very much interested in their events because, given my past that I told you with Model Parliament and the PAGE program, I essentially found like, okay, maybe they are going to do events which are going to cater to what I'm looking for in the future. And recently I just came back from a trip in Ottawa, which was a collaboration between the University of Toronto and the University of Ottawa, a Model Parliament, this time held in the House of Commons in Ottawa. Nice. So similar to the Ontario Model Parliament, but in this case, it's fake politics, real procedure. So I would basically, debate of what bills that other parties had, because I was the opposition. So what bills the main government had, and then just like grill them during question period and whatever weak points that they had. But honestly, it wasn't too much of a serious grilling. It was a fun grilling when because at the end of the day, you're just there to gain experience, have fun, and enjoy, Canadian politics in a federal, but yet a fun manner,
Yeah, absolutely. That's sweet. I saw other things in terms of like extracurricular stuff you do. Mm-hmm. We have writing and journaling department at the Department of Physical and Environmental Sciences at UTSC.
Yeah.
that's something that, like, how much of a time commitment is that? What do you do there?
You've been digging into my LinkedIn, eh? Good job on you. Yes. So I started that, I believe, back in November. One of my friends who's there, his name is Harry. Shout out to you, Harry. He basically told me about the thing that he was running with the Department of Physical and Environmental Sciences there at U of T. And obviously me, as you probably saw from my IG post, I love to write. Writing is a good medium that I find in order to, alleviate myself from all the stresses too, in addition to faith. And given that I loved writing, I decided to, reach out to Harry and say, Harry, look, I have this experience in writing. Also, I wrote for my co-op newsletter as well, most recently for the community, which has helped a lot of people. And I reached out to Harry. I'm like, Harry, look, I'm interested. Would you like to take me in? He's like, of course. And then in the next 2-3 months, I wrote 2-3 articles for the department. So some of them, I believe one of them was on International Women's Day, and giving some advice for people that need consultation, stuff like that. And then another one was on a field trip that I went to Port Colborne, so near the Niagara region, as part of a course. So Earth History, ESB 15. Shout out to you, Professor Daxberger, for doing that.
What was the professor's name?
Professor Heidi Daxberger.
Daxberger.
Yeah,
that's
German.
a dope name. Shout out to you.
So I was part of that field trip, and what I did was I just summarized what I was looking at. It was basically, it's a very historical place because you get to examine the history of rocks, shirts, etc., etc. So we got to we also had to do a mini assignment. So I just shared some details of the assignment and the findings that we found, the rocks, and it was a lovely time there.
Nice.
Just honestly, reason why I decided to go into the department was my love of writing. At the end of the day, I love writing. I love journaling. It's a really good medium for me to express myself.
Nice. Do you do any like there's a big thing now, for some reason, I don't know, maybe you have seen differently, but for some reason I've seen a lot about meditation, because it seems like everyone's minds are so fried, and everyone's attention span is like right down to nearly if it doesn't have an interesting hook to the 15-second reel I'm skipping, it's really caused people to be super anxious.
Absolutely.
So I think there's now this new hype, this new growth and interest for meditations for people to kind of get their brains back in order and their mind sound. So for journaling, another thing, that's what a lot of people do. They take time at the end of the day and they write, and it just kind of calms them down. It's soothing. Do you do any of that? When you write, is there any of that relationship? Like you said, prayer is a big thing for making it so that you can kind of stay cool and collected. But is writing, do you write to kind of relax, or do you write more you're trying to pass bills and get things done?
Of course, that's an important factor too. Don't get me wrong. In order to stay to live your life, but yes, to mention to your point on relaxing, that's my my main medium, because yes, I agree, prayer is an important thing, but sometimes when you have all this stress and all this anger occupied in your heart, what's the point of rage and causing someone else's day to become worse, right? The best thing you can do is just write down your feelings, write down what you're going through. And the more and more you do it, I know at first, let's say when you're angry and you want to write down, you still have a lot of rage. But when you have that pen or pencil, whatever you use, and a notebook, you can just write it down. The calmness and the relaxation in your heart is going to level out, and then you're going to eventually be at peace. So in that aspect, yes, it would be more so the relaxation part.
Nice. You more of a pen or a pencil guy?
So it's funny. I used to be more of a pencil back then, but now I've transitioned onto pens.
When did that transition happen? Because I've
uni. Yeah. Because I realized all my friends. I have this funny story. So I never knew that if you did stuff in pencil that it wouldn't be regraded. But I saw this one of my test papers that I got back, and he's like, one of the instructions says, "Oh, if you did it in pen, then it will be regraded. If you did it in pencil, it wouldn't." So normally, traditionally in high school, you would always use pencils, right? So I would be the traditional lad and use pencils all the time. But little did I realize, okay, they more place emphasis on pens. So I'm like, well, I'm kind of screwed in it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I might as well just transition to pens right now, and so be it.
Yeah, that's funny. Another thing, okay, so we're a week into school here. I don't know if you've noticed this either. I don't know if you even maybe felt it in your second year, but the second years hate the first years for no reason. There is some beef every single year where the second years
Interesting.
just dislike the incoming class. I was at the elevator and I was talking to a guy. It was like the first day of class, and I was like, "You headed to your first class?"
Yeah.
And then he goes, "First class of the year, yeah, but I'm a second year. I was here last year, so I kind of know how it works." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." That was very bold and he seemed very excited to tell me that, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in my fourth year." I'm like, "So yeah, you got a bit of experience then?" He's like, "Yeah, it's funny watching these first years in the dining hall. They don't know what they're doing." And I'm like, "Okay, chill.
Like, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, they'll do anything to say that they're not first years. I find it kind of funny, but yeah, no, that's interesting. This first week's been pretty good, I think.
Oh yeah, it has.
What are your courses like?
So I'm taking 4 courses, with one of them being online and asynchronous. So in this case, I would be going twice a week technically, but sometimes I'd be going 3 times a week. One of my courses only has 2 practicals. So on the 24th of September and then somewhere like mid-October-ish.
Got it.
So, it's been okay. Obviously coming back from a 3-week stint, a 3-week break that is, from, taking chem for 4 months during the summer. It's a little hectic, but, I've had a lot of friends that have, taken 12-month semesters, 12-month semesters. So, again, I tell myself, look, I'm no different. I have to experience this one way or another. Take it as a challenge. So be it.
Yep.
Grind.
Yep, absolutely. That's sweet. One other thing I want to ask you about, which I mentioned off camera, but where do you get all the energy, man? I think that maybe it's the clothes. Maybe because I'm in such schlepp kind of clothes and you're in like this like businessman ready to move. You're like, I'm ready. So, but no, other than that, what gives you the energy to get up and moving and
for me,
excited for the day?
For me, I just tend to stay happy every day and go into each and every day with the positive mindset. Because if I go to each and every day with a negative mindset, I'll be slouchy, lousy, and I have no motivation to tackle on the challenges in the world, right?
Yeah.
Every day, I just wake up, I pray to God, be grateful for what I have, I deal with it, and then, even if I'm going through a bad day, I just smile through it, take it on as a challenge, and just be friendly with others, and live my life like, because every life is short, right? You never know when it's going to end fast. Yeah. So live life as if there's no tomorrow and enjoy every single moment of it, because there's going to be one point in your life when you're going to miss the pain a lot. So just even
what do you mean miss the pain?
Like, the pain of grinding, the pain that sometimes if you're going through your own family matters, stuff like that, etc. So just enjoy it, because at one point in your life, you're going to miss it and reminisce on, damn, those were some of the good times that made me a better man,
Yeah.
So just live life as if there may be no tomorrow,
That's fantastic. And that is my camera going out. We'll put the batteries in. We're almost going to wrap up here. I'll give you a chance to make some final thoughts, but we're going to do like literally 2 minutes and then jump back into it.
Of course.
Awesome. I do want to share one last story with you.
Please, go ahead.
Wrap it up. It's my first week.
Of course.
I had an economics class. It's game theory with professor. His name's, I'm definitely going to butcher this name, but Itai Ariely.
Oh, okay.
Seemed like an Italian guy. I don't know if that's an Italian name, but he seemed like he had an Italian accent.
Itai Ariely, no?
Yeah, exactly.
Andiamo.
And he's going through the grade breakdown, like what different assignments are worth in the class. So there's like, what was it? There was a problem set for 10%. There was the midterm at 20%.
Okay.
And the final is worth 70%.
Bloody hell.
And one of the kids in the class raised his hand. He's like, "Professor, actually, is the final for 70%, is that not able to change?" And he goes, "Well, the final is 70%, but you can skip midterm and make final 90% if you like." So that was pretty gangster. Shout out to Itai Ariely, great prof.
The
First
Sopranos in
impression.
it.
Yeah, but no, I thought that was funny. Anyways,
All love to my Italians. Andiamo.
shout out. If he's even Italian, watch him not be Italian.
Yeah. Oh crap. Then we're screwed.
Anyways. Would you like to share some final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Of course. And this is going to look a little unprofessional, but I did this all through Google Docs, so I apologize.
You do have your flashlight on, I will say.
Oh, bloody hell. That is... Well, you see, there we go. We're off to a great start. Apologies for that.
You're chilling, man.
So...
If I didn't mention it, someone would mention it in the comments. I'd rather me let you know beforehand.
Better safe than sorry, eh? So there are a couple people that have helped me uplift me through my darkest of times and through my best of times that deserve a very very special shout out. Who I haven't mentioned obviously in this podcast. So there's a couple that I'm going to start with now. First off, my guy Demario Knowles. Big up to yourself for continuing to make that impact for everyone at UTSC and at U of T, including myself, and also allowing us to appreciate the impact, all caps, that poems have, to better influence our lives. Tarek, mi grande hermano, que pasa, güey? My big brother, what's up? Thank you for gracias por todos, or thank you for everything, I should say, in elevating my photography game and being one of my best brother figures that I've ever had in a long, long time. I still always reminisce on the CS and the Mate 36 days, but amidst the pain, we still enjoyed it thoroughly, and I can't wait to enjoy more memories with you. Nico, Felipe, Simone, and Jonah, thank you so much for all the great laughter and study sessions that we had in Calc 2, the econ courses, and hydrology. I still won't forget how you taught me how to calculate volumes, Nico, if you know what I mean. We don't need to go there. This is going to be posted on social media, so I'm going to be careful what I say. And the countless study sessions that I had with you, Simon and Felipe, on econ. And Jonah, not to mention, if you remember quite recently, us two jumping together to Let It Happen from Tame Impala while we were studying hydrology. The best moments I'll treasure in a long time. Austin Liu, my guy. Remember when I first met you in Physics 131 last summer? I was like, when I first saw you, I'm like, who the heck is this excited lad? I don't know if I should be with this guy. But then from then on, I'm like, yeah, you and I, we're going to be good brothers for a long time. Brothers, family, just like you always like to mention in Fast and Furious because that's your favorite movie, eh? I would literally like to thank you so much, and I'm very much indebted to you for transforming my attitude completely on the gym and also bettering up my mental and physical health. And also, from an academic standpoint, too, bettering myself up in that aspect, too, to the point where I don't have to call myself, and I'll do an Eric Cartman impersonation. I apologize. This is going to be cringe in advance. That I'm not fat. I'm big boned. I'm so grateful that I don't have to fully say that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still have a bit of the South Asian fat here, but I'm working on removing that as much as possible. So thanks to you. And also my two first friends that I've ever met at U of T, both in the Scarborough and the St. George campus, Dean and Jacob. Dean, remember when I first met you at Pump 2 through Zoom? Obviously, you're in Indonesia. I was in Canada. I was here in Toronto at the time, basically interacting across the world, conversations through WhatsApp about footy and all the Thomas Shelby, Peaky Blinders stuff. And the rest is history, you and I know. Photographies, all the best memories in the gym, etc., etc. So thank you for that. And Jacob, I still remember the first day when I met you at the environmental science building. And like with my other friends, the rest is history with that too. So I still reminisce on the good times when we came back from Pan Am and I dropped you off at home playing Pop Smoke all the time. Rest in peace, Bashar. So thank you. Thank you for making me also a happy person and, also bonding over the same music taste that we all liked. And I'll always remember when you always used to say, "Yeah," every time I meet each other. That's basically like bro code, brother code, when we see each other, because obviously in university, we don't have the same classes. So, whenever we get to see each other, it's like a very big reunion, similar to that of high school reunions and stuff like that. But in my opinion, a little bit more grandiose, it just my emotional, opinion on that. And now coming on the high school part, Emerson and Arthur. Oh man, Emerson, now on you. Remember when we first met at high school and then we had this one Wednesday session talking about life and I mentioned that I was in the PAGE program? I still remember the voice that you said you were in the PAGE program as well. That word still... Oh, sorry. Did it end? Sorry.
I'll give you my camera.
So, sorry about that cutting off, Emerson. I still remember when you said to me the first day, "Are you in the PAGE program?" Or "You were in the PAGE program too?" And man, the rest was like the best of times for the 4 years in high school. Obviously, even going through COVID, because I had a COVID year. We all had a COVID year at the end of the day. I still remember the times when I was always down in high school, going through some rough times. And we were at the park, you and I with Tim's. You uplifted me through those hard moments. And the rest, all like political banter, soccer banter, football banter. Sorry, I'm going to call it proper football because that's how it should be. Obviously, you being a Liverpool fan, me being a Man U fan, and then us two just, for lack of a better word, talking each other all the time because we're rivals, obviously, but healthy rivals, that is. And also, I still remember I had that grade 9 photo when I looked like Caillou because long story short, my hairstylist butchered it badly. So not to blame her, I misguided her a little bit. And then you looked like Gritty too. I still have that photo, and those are the best times I treasure with you, man. And Arthur, don't you think I forgot about those Camp Tamarack memories, bro? And all the things you said on the bus, man. I still remember them time to time again, and how you always made me laugh when we always used to, study or, chill at the library and the seminar room. So much love to both of you. Professor and teacher wise, now there's everyone. I'd like to thank everyone, past and present, that has helped me thus far, but there's a couple of people that I'd like to give very, very special thanks of gratitude to. So Mr. Anderson and Monsieur Essay. Remember Mr. Anderson, when I first interacted with you in junior kindergarten, as you probably well know, I was like scared all the time to the point where I always wanted to go back home constantly rather than be in that classroom. And then in the case of Monsieur Essay, when you saw a young grade 4 kid like me who was eager to expand his lingual knowledge, in that case, French in that case, from that point onward in both sectors, all the way until from elementary school all the way to now, that you have instilled the tenets of discipline, stoicism, staying grounded, and patience in my life to the point where, thanks to God, alhamdulillah, everything is now in fruition. Not to mention the countless educational books you guys have provided for me to study over the summer, which I have used, such as French, math, English, and social studies, and the opportunities you have given to me to help, teach your students in, social studies and the other subjects that you so required at the time. You saw potential in this lad like me, and forever I'll be grateful to you guys for that. Jean-Guy, like I've mentioned before, for introducing me to the world of Canadian Ontario politics and allowing me to flourish into a place where I'm able to finally be proud to advocate for the extracurricular parliamentary work that I've done, not only for myself, but also for my community as well, such as my involvement in the PAGE program in the Ontario Model Parliament, and also being a role model for a community of mine that, we all struggle together, but we all get through it at the end of the day. And then finally, I don't have any hate in my heart, as you probably know from this thing, but I'd just like to provide a very special thank you to the ones that have undermined me in the past, because I just want to tell you one simple thing, and I'll leave the phone aside for this. Do you want to know why Xavier Abroad Laskar is still standing here? It's because of all those words that you have tried to say, oh, this is not possible, oh, this, oh, yada, yada, yada. Guess what? I did a 180 and I've still made that possible from this day. A lot of people, believe me, in my community, Carter, have been literally counting on me, and I've been a role model for a community of such good struggle. I didn't have it easy, growing up. I obviously did not grow up rich. I had to build it all from scratch. Me and my family, it was a collective effort at the end of the day. And whenever I see smiles on their faces and happiness, and them coming by to telling me when I go to community walks that you have made a positive difference in my life, and all the thank yous, that's when I know my job is done, and I can continue to grind even more harder to make sure that my community, the St. Lawrence neighborhood, and the Esplanade can be properly put on the map for generations and generations to come. And as much as people want to attack me from all angles, because of my strong faith in God, look, at the end of the day, I know I'm protected by angels, and with the strong family cohesive that I have, albeit I know that, every family goes through hell and high water, good times, bad times. With the support of those two, I don't even need Secret Service. I have the angels to protect me, and that's all that matters. So to the ones that undermine me, I'm still here to stay. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. And that's that.
What a speech. Thank you very much, Jay,
You're welcome.
for all of that. We're going to wrap up here. Thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will see you... We will see you next Sunday. Voices of Vic. Peace out.